My wife cheated with her friend's brother after 9 years together. I kicked her out, contacted lawyers, and agreed to 1 month of strict rules before deciding on divorce. My name is Ben, 33M. I married my wife Anna, 31F, 5 years ago. We dated for 4 years before that, making it 9 years total. Our life together felt solid. We built things together. I remember when her father was ill 2 years back. I took leave from work to help drive him to appointments while she focused on her family business. We shared a love for hiking and spent many weekends exploring trails, often packing sandwiches she'd made the night before. We communicated well, disagreements were rare and usually resolved quickly. We had talked about having children next year. We also discussed infidelity once, maybe 3 years ago after a friend of ours went through a separation. I recall stating clearly that if either of us cheated, the relationship would end. Anna had agreed at the time, saying trust was everything. Last weekend, Anna planned a trip to her hometown, about a 3-hour drive away, to visit her parents and catch up with childhood friends. This was a regular occurrence, maybe happening every couple of months. Before she left on Friday evening, we had a disagreement about the recycling bins not being taken out. It was a small thing, but the conversation was shorter than usual as she packed her overnight bag. On Saturday, communication was sparse. I sent a text around lunchtime asking how her parents were, and she replied later saying, "Fine, heading out soon." I knew she intended to meet friends at a local pub, the Old Mill, a place she often went to when home. I didn't feel the need to check in constantly. I trusted her. Later that night, around 11 p.m., just before I went to bed, I texted her, "Hope you're having a good time with your friends." I fell asleep shortly after. I woke up on Sunday morning around 7 a.m. and saw a missed call on my phone from Anna, timed at 4:03 a.m. I immediately called her back. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again 10 minutes later, same result. I got up, made coffee, and checked my phone every few minutes. I called again at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., still no answer. Around 10:30 a.m., I received a text message from her. "I'm okay, we'll drive back later this afternoon." Anna arrived home around 5 p.m. on Sunday. When she walked in, she looked pale and her eyes were red. She wasn't wearing any makeup, which was unusual for her unless she was ill. She avoided eye contact and moved stiffly. I asked her if she was all right. She didn't respond immediately, but walked past me towards the living room. I followed her and asked if she wanted something to drink. She shook her head. I sat on the armchair opposite the sofa, where she had perched on the edge. I asked her gently what had happened. She started crying, burying her face in her hands. The crying continued for several minutes, deep sobbing sounds. I moved to sit beside her and put a hand on her back, but she flinched slightly. After the crying subsided a little, she began to speak, pausing frequently. She told me she had slept with someone the previous night after leaving the pub. I stood up from the sofa. I walked out of the living room, grabbed my car keys from the hook by the door, and left the house. I got into my car and drove to a nearby nature reserve. I parked the car and walked along the main trail for about an hour. My phone rang multiple times. I saw Anna's name on the screen and eventually turned the phone off. When I returned home, the house was quiet. Anna was not in the living room. I went to the garage and retrieved 2 large suitcases. I took them upstairs to our bedroom. I opened the wardrobe and pulled out items of Anna's clothing, dresses, jeans, sweaters, and put them into the cases. I added shoes from the rack at the bottom of the wardrobe. I carried the packed suitcases downstairs and left them near the front door. I found Anna in the kitchen, sitting on the floor leaning against the cabinets, her knees pulled up to her chest. I picked up my phone and called Chloe, her closest friend who lives about 15 minutes away. When Chloe answered, I told her that Anna needed a place to stay and needed picking up. I said Anna could explain the situation herself. I ended the call. I told Anna that Chloe was coming to collect her and that I was going out for another hour. As I walked towards the door, she reached out and held onto my trousers near the ankle. I carefully detached her hand and walked out. I drove to a supermarket, walked around the aisles, bought a bottle of water, and then drove back home. When I arrived, Anna's car was gone, and the suitcases were no longer by the door. On Monday morning, I turned my phone back on. There were many missed calls and messages from Anna, her friends, and her mother. I ignored most of them, but answered one call from Anna around lunchtime. I told her I needed a detailed account of what happened on Saturday night written down. I specified that she should send it via email and that omitting any detail would mean no possibility of discussing reconciliation. I received an email notification from her that evening, but I did not open it. Since Sunday night, my routine has consisted of going to work, going to the gym, eating meals alone, and sleeping. The phone continued to ring frequently. Her sister called multiple times. My own parents called, and I told them briefly that Anna and I were having problems and I needed space. On Tuesday evening, one of Anna's other friends, Megan, arrived at my front door. She started speaking loudly as soon as I opened it, asking what right I had to kick Anna out. I told her to discuss it with Anna and closed the door. I contacted 3 different law firms specializing in family law on Monday and Tuesday. I had initial consultations over the phone. I logged into our joint bank account and transferred half of the balance into my personal account, which we had maintained separately for personal expenses. I then blocked Anna's number on my phone and blocked her and her close friends on social media platforms. Yesterday, Wednesday, I found a handwritten note pushed through the letterbox. It was from Anna, asking if we could meet tomorrow, Thursday, to talk. I considered the note for some time before placing it on the kitchen counter. Should I agree to meet her? Could a meeting change the outcome? Is reconciliation a realistic possibility? My actions seem mechanical, like following steps in a manual. How does one move past this stage? Update 1. After considering the situation and the note Anna left, I decided to meet with her on Thursday. I did not read the email she had sent earlier in the week. Anna arrived at the house at the agreed time, late afternoon. When I opened the door, her appearance was similar to how she looked on Sunday. Pale, drawn, her eyes puffy. She moved to hug me as she stepped inside, uttering apologies, but I held up a hand to stop her. We went into the living room and sat down, me in the armchair, her on the sofa. I informed Anna that I would be recording the audio of our conversation, and she nodded her agreement. I then asked her to tell me what happened on Saturday night, stating that I had not read her email. Anna recounted the evening. She said she met 2 friends, Chloe and Olivia. I know both of them. Olivia is married to a colleague of mine, at the old mill around 8 p.m. She listed her drinks, 2 glasses of white wine and 1 gin and tonic over about 4 hours. She stated she felt only slightly tipsy, not drunk. Chloe's younger brother, Tom, 28M, arrived around midnight to give the 3 of them a lift. I knew Tom casually. He had been around at occasional group gatherings. Anna mentioned there had been long-running jokes within her friendship group about Tom having a crush on her since they were teenagers. I had heard similar remarks before. Tom dropped Chloe and Olivia off first. When only Anna and Tom were left in the car, Anna said she felt bad asking him to drive the extra 20 minutes to her parents' house, especially as he had worked that day. She decided to get an Uber from his apartment, which was closer. She went inside his apartment building and then into his flat to use her phone app to book the ride. She said she couldn't find an available Uber after trying for about 10 minutes. Tom suggested she could sleep in his bed, and he would take the sofa, offering to drive her to her parents' place in the morning. Anna told me she declined this offer and kept trying the Uber app. According to Anna, they were sitting on the edge of Tom's bed while she was looking at her phone. Tom then leaned over and kissed her. She said she kissed him back. They proceeded to have sex. She reiterated that it was consensual. Immediately afterwards, she said she started crying due to guilt. Tom then drove her to her parents' house. She sat in her car outside their house crying for about an hour before trying to call me at 4 a.m. to confess. During her explanation, Anna stopped several times, crying audibly. She repeated that it was a terrible mistake. She got carried away. It meant nothing, and she only loved me. When she finished speaking, I told her that parts of her story seemed inconsistent, particularly the difficulty in getting an Uber in a reasonably sized town at that hour, but that the specifics didn't alter the fundamental situation. I stated that I was proceeding with the divorce. This led to another period of intense crying from her. I then outlined my position. I would continue with the initial divorce preparations. However, I proposed a 1-month period of strict separation with absolutely no contact between us. During this month, several conditions had to be met. Both of us would remain faithful to each other, both would get a comprehensive STD screening panel done, and she needed to inform key people, specifically our immediate families and our close mutual friends like David and Lisa, Mark and Sarah, about the real reason for our separation, namely, her infidelity. I explained this last point was necessary because several people, including her friend Megan and her sister, had contacted me with accusations based on the idea I had thrown her out over a simple argument. I clarified I didn't expect a detailed recounting to them, just the factual reason for the separation. If she adhered strictly to all these conditions for the entire month, I would be willing to meet with her again at the end of that period to discuss whether any path forward existed besides finalizing the divorce. Anna agreed to all the conditions immediately and without reservation. She also explicitly stated that she did not expect me to remain faithful to her during this period, although my condition included mutual fidelity. I understand this decision might seem contradictory given my initial stance. However, after 9 years together, I need to be completely certain that ending the marriage is the only viable path. I estimate the likelihood of divorce remains extremely high, perhaps 99%, but I require the full 100% certainty that comes from exploring this structured separation first. I need this time and this process to process the events fully before making an irreversible decision. Update 2. The day after my meeting with Anna, I contacted a locksmith and had the locks on the house changed. I spent part of the weekend boxing up more of her belongings that were still in the house, things from the bathroom, books, decorative items, and stored them neatly in the spare room. Adhering to the conditions, I scheduled and underwent a full STD screening early in the week. The clinic informed me the results would take several days. There has been no direct contact from Anna since she left the house after our meeting on Thursday. I received confirmation through my lawyer midweek that Anna's lawyer had contacted them to acknowledge the separation terms we discussed, though no formal separation agreement has been drafted yet, pending the outcome of the 1-month period. My parents called again over the weekend. I spoke with my father and explained the situation more clearly, that Anna had been unfaithful and we were currently separated while I considered the future, including divorce. He listened and offered support without judgment, suggesting I take the time I need. Her sister sent me one text message early in the week asking if Anna could retrieve her remaining items. I replied briefly, stating that we had agreed on no contact for 1 month and arrangements could be discussed after that period. I received no further messages from her. Mutual friends Mark and Sarah invited me over for dinner on Friday night. I initially declined, but Mark insisted, assuring me it would be casual and they just wanted to check in. I went over. They mentioned Anna had spoken to them and told them she had been unfaithful. They didn't press for details and kept the conversation light, mostly talking about work and a holiday they were planning. It was uncomfortable, but their effort to maintain normalcy was noted. Work provides structure. The gym provides a physical outlet. The house feels large and quiet. I received my STD test results yesterday. They were all negative. I forwarded a copy of the results summary to my lawyer to be held on file. I have not received any information regarding Anna's test results. The first week of the separation period has passed. Update 3. The second and third weeks of the separation period passed without direct contact between Anna and me. The silence was consistent. My lawyer handled one minor query from her lawyer regarding a joint insurance policy renewal, confirming my instruction to let it lapse for now. I continued my routine: work, gym, cooking simple meals. I reconnected with a couple of old university friends online, exchanging messages about everyday things. One evening, my colleague, whose wife Olivia was one of the friends Anna was with at the old mill, invited me for a drink after work. We talked mostly about a project deadline, but he did mention briefly that Olivia felt caught in the middle and that the situation was difficult for their friend group. He didn't offer opinions or ask probing questions. I received confirmation through my sister, who had spoken cautiously with Anna's mother, that Anna had informed her parents about the infidelity being the cause of the separation. This fulfilled another part of the conditions. One Saturday afternoon, while grocery shopping, I saw Tom, Chloe's brother, in another aisle. He saw me at the same time. He immediately turned his trolley and walked quickly in the opposite direction. I finished my shopping and left. The divorce paperwork initiated by my lawyer sits in a folder on my desk. I have reviewed the initial documents outlining asset division and procedures. No further steps have been taken pending the end of the agreed month. The house remains tidy, organized. I spent one weekend clearing out the garage. The suitcases with Anna's clothes remain untouched in the spare room. The month is nearing its end. Update 4. With the 1-month separation period concluding at the end of this week, I sent Anna a brief text message proposing a meeting time at the house this coming Saturday afternoon. She replied within minutes, confirming she would be there. During the past week, I confirmed through Mark that Anna had indeed undergone her STD screening and that the results were negative. She had apparently shared this information with Chloe, who had relayed it to Sarah. This meets the final condition we had set. The past month has been quiet. The routine I established continued. There were no breaches of the no-contact agreement from either side. I spoke with my lawyer to inform him the follow-up meeting was scheduled, reiterating that no final decision would be made until after that conversation. I considered the events of the past month and the 9 years prior. The folder with the divorce documentation remains on the desk. On Friday evening, I tidied the living room and made sure there was coffee available. The house is clean. Saturday afternoon is approaching. I checked the time on my phone and then looked toward the front door. The doorbell has not rung yet. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. My sister called me trashy and wanted me to change everything about myself for her wedding. 6 months later, she's becoming more like me and our parents are shocked. I, 28F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Sarah, 32F. Growing up, Sarah was the perfect child. Straight A student, popular, athletic. I was more of a free spirit, into art and music. Our parents clearly favored Sarah and she often lorded it over me. From a young age, it was clear that Sarah and I were different. While she excelled in academics and sports, I found solace in creativity. I remember countless nights where Sarah would be at the dining room table, surrounded by textbooks and trophies, while I sat in my room sketching or playing guitar. Our parents would praise Sarah's accomplishments endlessly, but my artistic pursuits were often met with lukewarm responses or concerns about future job prospects. As we entered our teenage years, the divide between us only grew. Sarah became captain of the cheerleading squad and student body president. I dyed my hair for the first time, a streak of blue, and joined the school's art club. The contrast between us couldn't have been starker. One particular incident stands out in my memory. When I was 15, I had my first art show at a local cafe. I was so excited and nervous, hoping my family would finally see the value in my passion. Sarah had a big soccer game the same day. Guess where my parents chose to go? I stood alone at my art show, fighting back tears as strangers admired my work. Sarah later told me I was selfish for feeling hurt, as her game was obviously more important. As adults, we've maintained a cordial but distant relationship. Sarah became a successful lawyer, married her college sweetheart Tom, and had 2 kids. I pursued my passion for photography, traveled a lot, and am happily single. Our different life choices have often been a source of tension, with Sarah and our parents frequently questioning when I'll settle down or get a real job. Sarah's getting remarried next month after divorcing Tom 2 years ago. Her divorce was messy and painful. Tom had been unfaithful, and it shattered Sarah's image of her perfect life. I tried to be supportive during that time, but Sarah often lashed out at me, saying things like, "At least I tried to have a real relationship," or "You wouldn't understand. You've never committed to anything." Her new fiancé, Jack, is a wealthy business owner. When Sarah called to invite me to the wedding, I was surprised but happy to be included. That is, until she started listing her requirements for me as a guest. First, she insisted I dye my hair back to its natural brown color. I've had vibrant purple hair for years. It's part of my identity and style as an artist. Sarah said it would clash with her wedding colors and look trashy in photos. This request particularly stung because my purple hair has become a signature part of my brand as a photographer. I've built a following and client base that appreciates my unique style, and changing it feels like betraying a part of myself. Next, she demanded I remove my nose ring and cover my tattoos. I have several small, tasteful tattoos that are meaningful to me. One is a butterfly on my wrist, symbolizing my journey of self-discovery. Another is a camera lens on my ankle, representing my passion for photography. Sarah claimed they're unprofessional and would embarrass her in front of Jack's conservative family. The final straw was when she told me I needed to lose at least 20 pounds before the wedding, or she'd have to put me at a table in the back where I wouldn't be as visible. I've always been curvy, but I'm perfectly healthy and comfortable with my body. This comment brought back painful memories of our teenage years, when Sarah would make snide remarks about my weight or try to force me to join her on crash diets. I was shocked and hurt by Sarah's demands. I told her I wouldn't change fundamental aspects of my appearance just for her wedding photos. She got angry and said if I really cared about her, I'd do this one thing to make her special day perfect. I tried explaining that asking me to drastically alter my looks was unreasonable and hurtful. I reminded her of all the times in our youth when I had to dim my own light to make room for her shine. I talked about how hard I've worked to accept and love myself, purple hair, curves, and all. But Sarah wasn't having it. She accused me of being selfish and trying to steal attention on her big day. She brought up past grievances, like the time I missed her law school graduation because I was on a photography assignment in Southeast Asia. She conveniently forgot that she had missed my first gallery opening because it conflicted with a spa weekend she had planned. Sarah said if I couldn't follow her simple requests, then I shouldn't bother coming at all. She went on a rant about how I've always been the family disappointment and how she was trying to give me a chance to finally fit in. Her words cut deep, reopening old wounds I thought had long since healed. At that point, I told Sarah I wouldn't be attending her wedding. I explained that I love her and want her to be happy, but I can't compromise my own identity and self-respect. She freaked out, calling me a horrible sister and saying I was ruining everything. I hung up and haven't spoken to her since, though she's been bad-mouthing me to family members. Our parents are furious with me for abandoning Sarah and potentially missing this important family event. They say I should just do what Sarah wants to keep the peace. Mom called me in tears, saying she doesn't understand why I always have to be difficult and embarrassing. Dad sent a terse email saying I need to grow up and stop being selfish, but I feel like giving in would just enable Sarah's controlling behavior. It would send the message that it's okay to demand people change themselves to fit your ideal image. Plus, I worry about the precedent it would set. If I change my appearance for her wedding, what's next? Will she expect me to maintain that look for all future family events? Some context. Sarah has always been extremely image-conscious and obsessed with appearances. When we were teens, she'd make cruel comments about my weight and style. She once threw out my favorite baggy jeans and band t-shirts, replacing them with preppy clothes she deemed more appropriate. As an adult, she's had multiple cosmetic surgeries and spends a fortune on designer clothes. Her first wedding to Tom was an over-the-top affair that nearly bankrupted our parents. Sarah threw tantrums over every little detail not being perfect. I was a bridesmaid, and she micromanaged everything from my hairstyle to how I walked down the aisle. She even tried to convince me to get cosmetic surgery to fix my imperfect nose before the big day. I thought Sarah had matured since then, especially after her divorce. During the early days of her split from Tom, we had a few heart-to-heart conversations where she admitted to being too focused on appearances. She said she envied my free-spirited nature and ability to be true to myself. I really believed we were turning a corner in our relationship, but it seems like she's reverting to her old perfectionist, controlling ways with this new wedding. I want to support my sister, but not at the cost of my own identity and self-respect. I've worked hard to build a life and career that allows me to be authentically myself. Changing my appearance so drastically feels like a betrayal of everything I've worked for. Am I the asshole for refusing to change my appearance and skipping the wedding? Should I just suck it up to avoid family drama? I'm starting to doubt myself after all the backlash from relatives. Part of me wonders if I'm being too stubborn or if there's a compromise I'm not seeing. But another part feels like this is a pivotal moment in standing up for myself and my choices. I'd appreciate some outside perspectives on this situation. Am I overreacting to Sarah's requests? Is there a way to support my sister without compromising my own identity? How do I navigate this family conflict without burning bridges completely? Update 1. It's been about 2 weeks since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their supportive comments. Reading them helped me feel more confident in my decision to stand up for myself. A few days after our phone call, Sarah showed up at my apartment unannounced. I was hesitant to let her in, but decided to hear her out. To my surprise, she burst into tears and apologized for her behavior. She admitted she'd been feeling insecure about the wedding and took it out on me unfairly. We had a long talk about our relationship and the issues from our childhood. Sarah acknowledged that she'd always been jealous of my confidence and creativity. She confessed that part of her wanted to control my appearance because she envied how comfortable I am with myself. As we talked, Sarah opened up about some things I never knew. She revealed that our parents' constant praise and high expectations had been a heavy burden. While I saw her as the golden child, she felt trapped by the pressure to be perfect. She admitted to struggling with anxiety and an eating disorder in college, something she'd kept hidden from the family. Sarah also shared that her divorce from Tom had shaken her confidence more than she let on. She'd built her identity around being the perfect wife and mother, and when that fell apart, she felt lost. She said seeing me living my life on my own terms made her question all the choices she'd made to please others. I was taken aback by Sarah's vulnerability. It was the first time I'd ever seen her let her guard down like that. I shared my own feelings of inadequacy growing up in her shadow and how hard I've had to work to embrace my true self. We both shed some tears as we realized how much hurt we'd been carrying all these years. Sarah apologized for trying to change me for the wedding. She said she'd been projecting her own insecurities onto me and it wasn't fair. She asked if I'd reconsider attending the wedding, saying she wanted me there as my authentic self. I explained how hurtful her comments and demands were, especially given our history. I told her about times she might not even remember, like when she told me my art would never amount to anything, or when she convinced our parents not to come to my high school art show because it conflicted with her debate tournament. Sarah seemed genuinely remorseful and promised to work on being more accepting. I agreed to think about attending the wedding, but made it clear that I needed time and space to process everything. Sarah respected that and left without pressuring me further. The next day, I got a call from our mom. Apparently, Sarah had told her about our conversation. Mom apologized for taking Sarah's side without hearing me out. She admitted that she and Dad had enabled Sarah's perfectionism over the years, and it wasn't fair to me. Mom shared some of her own regrets. She talked about how she'd always struggled with self-image and had projected those issues onto her daughters. She confessed that she'd been harder on me because she saw herself in my free-spirited nature and wanted to protect me from the judgment she'd faced. It didn't excuse her behavior, but it helped me understand her perspective a bit better. A few days later, Sarah's fiancé Jack reached out to me. He said Sarah had filled him in on the situation, and he wanted to apologize as well. Jack explained that he comes from a very traditional family, but he loves Sarah for who she is, and wants her family to feel welcome at the wedding too. Jack shared that he'd been raised in a strict, appearance-focused household, and had his own journey of breaking free from those expectations. He said one of the things that attracted him to Sarah was her success and drive, but he'd been helping her see that there's more to life than achieving perfection. Jack invited me to have dinner with him and Sarah, no strings attached. I was hesitant, but decided to go. It was actually a pleasant evening. Jack seemed like a good guy who balances out Sarah's intensity. He complimented my unique style, and even asked about my photography work. During dinner, we looked through some of my recent projects. Jack was particularly impressed by a series I'd done highlighting diverse body types and personal styles. Sarah surprised me by suggesting I display some of my work at the wedding reception. It felt like a genuine olive branch. Sarah was noticeably more relaxed around Jack. She made an effort to engage me in the wedding planning, asking for my creative input rather than making demands. We brainstormed some ideas for personalizing the decor and making the event feel more inclusive. It felt like a step in the right direction for our relationship. I'm still processing everything and haven't made a final decision about the wedding, but I'm cautiously optimistic that Sarah is making a genuine effort to change. I've agreed to be more involved in the planning process to see how things go. My parents have also been making amends. They've invited me over for family dinners and are showing more interest in my life and work. Dad even asked to see my portfolio and seemed impressed by my recent successes. It's a bit overwhelming after years of feeling like the black sheep, but I appreciate the effort. I know repairing our family dynamic will take time, and there may be setbacks. Sarah's perfectionist tendencies and our parents' ingrained behaviors won't disappear overnight. And I'm still working through my own feelings of resentment and hurt. But for now, I'm taking things one day at a time and focusing on open communication. I'm curious to see how things will unfold as the wedding approaches. Will Sarah stick to her promise of accepting me as I am? Will our parents continue to make an effort to treat us equally? And how will I navigate potentially uncomfortable situations with Jack's conservative family? Thanks again to everyone who offered advice and support. Your perspectives helped me stand firm in my beliefs while also being open to reconciliation. I'll keep you updated on how things progress. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments. After much consideration, I decided to attend Sarah's wedding. It wasn't an easy choice, but I felt it was important to give our improving relationship a chance. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Sarah stayed true to her word about accepting me as I am. She even asked me to help with some of the creative aspects of the wedding, like designing the invitations and guest book. It felt good to contribute my skills in a way that was appreciated. One particularly meaningful moment came when Sarah asked me to take her engagement photos. She said she wanted captures that showed the real her, not just a polished image. We spent a day shooting in various locations, including some edgier urban backdrops that I never thought Sarah would go for. Seeing her let loose and have fun during the shoot was refreshing. As the wedding day approached, there were a few bumps in the road. Sarah had a minor meltdown over the flower arrangements, falling back into her perfectionist ways. But instead of lashing out at me like she might have in the past, she recognized what was happening and asked for help to calm down. It was a small moment, but it showed real growth. The wedding day itself was interesting. Sarah was noticeably stressed, but she managed to keep her perfectionist tendencies mostly in check. There were a few tense moments, like when she freaked out over a minor issue with the flowers, but Jack was great at calming her down. I won't lie, I did get some looks from Jack's more conservative relatives. I overheard one aunt asking Sarah if I was going through a phase, but Sarah and Jack both made a point of introducing me proudly to everyone. Jack's younger cousins thought my purple hair was cool and asked for pictures with me, which was sweet. There was an awkward moment during the family photos when the photographer suggested I stand in the back row to balance the colors. I saw Sarah tense up, clearly torn between her old instincts and her promise to accept me. To her credit, she spoke up and said she wanted me right up front with her. It was a small gesture, but it meant a lot. The most surprising part of the day came during the speeches. Sarah asked if she could say a few words to me specifically. In front of everyone, she apologized for how she'd treated me in the past and thanked me for being there despite everything. She said she was proud to have me as her sister, purple hair, tattoos, and all. I'll admit, I teared up a bit. Sarah also thanked me for my contributions to the wedding, pointing out the invitations and decor I'd helped design. She even mentioned my photography, encouraging guests to check out the engagement photos displayed at the reception. It felt like she was finally seeing and appreciating my talents. It wasn't all smooth sailing, though. I overheard our mom making excuses for my appearance to some of the other guests, which stung, and one of Jack's aunts made a nasty comment about my weight when she thought I couldn't hear. But overall, it was a much more positive experience than I'd anticipated. There was an unexpected moment of connection with our dad during the father-daughter dance. He came over to me afterwards and awkwardly asked if I'd like to dance too. As we swayed to the music, he told me he was proud of the woman I'd become, even if he didn't always understand my choices. It wasn't a magical fix for our relationship, but it felt like a start. After the wedding, Sarah and I had a heart-to-heart. She admitted that planning the wedding had brought up a lot of her old insecurities and control issues. She talked about how hard it was to let go of the perfect image she'd always tried to maintain. But she also said she felt more relaxed and genuine at this wedding than she ever had at her first one. Sarah shared that she's considering therapy to work through some of her perfectionism and body image struggles. She asked if I'd be willing to go to a few family therapy sessions with her and our parents. I'm hesitant, but open to the idea. I'm really proud of her for recognizing that she needs help. Our relationship isn't magically fixed, but it feels like we're on a better path. We've made plans to get together regularly, just the two of us, to keep working on our bond. Sarah suggested we try some art classes together. Her idea of a way to step out of her comfort zone and into my world a bit. I'm still processing all the changes and emotions from the wedding day. While overall it was a positive experience, there were moments that brought up old hurts and insecurities. I know it will take time to fully trust that Sarah's changes are genuine and lasting. As for our parents, I can see they're trying, but old habits die hard. Mom still made a few comments about my unusual style, though she tried to frame them as compliments. Dad seems more open to understanding my career, but I can tell he still doesn't quite get it. It's going to take time and effort, but I'm cautiously optimistic about the future of our sisterhood. I'm curious to see how things evolve once the excitement of the wedding has faded and real life sets in again. Will Sarah maintain this new, accepting attitude? Will our parents continue to make efforts to treat us equally? For now, I'm taking things one day at a time and trying to maintain open communication with my family. I'm proud of myself for standing firm in my identity while also being open to reconciliation. It's a delicate balance, but I'm hopeful we can make it work. Update 3. It's been about 6 months since Sarah's wedding, and I wanted to give a final update on how things have progressed. Overall, I'm happy to report that the positive changes have largely stuck, though we've had our share of challenges along the way. Sarah has been going to therapy regularly, and it seems to be helping her work through a lot of her issues. She's become much more relaxed and accepting, not just of me, but of herself too. We've been meeting up for sister dates every few weeks, and our conversations have gotten deeper and more meaningful. One particularly touching moment came when Sarah asked me to help her add some color to her hair. Nothing drastic, just some subtle purple highlights. It was a big step for her in embracing a less perfect image. The smile on her face when she saw the finished result was priceless. She even posted a selfie on social media, something she would have never done with imperfect hair before. We've had a few hiccups along the way. There was an incident at a family barbecue where Sarah slipped into her old critical ways, making a snide comment about my outfit. But instead of letting it escalate, we were able to step aside and talk it through. Sarah recognized her behavior and apologized sincerely. It showed me that while change isn't always linear, she's genuinely trying. Our parents have also been making efforts to treat us more equally. Mom has stopped making excuses for my appearance, and has even complimented my style a few times. She recently asked me to help her update her wardrobe, saying she wanted to be more adventurous like me. It was a sweet gesture, even if her idea of adventurous was a patterned scarf. Dad recently commissioned me to do a family portrait, which felt like a real acknowledgement of my artistic skills. During the shoot, He asked thoughtful questions about my technique and seemed genuinely interested in understanding my work. It's a far cry from the dismissive attitude he used to have towards my career. The biggest test came last month when I was offered a huge photography opportunity that would involve me traveling for several months. In the past, Sarah would have guilt-tripped me about leaving. Instead, she was genuinely excited for me and offered to help look after my apartment while I'm gone. She even suggested I document my travels on social media so she could follow along. This opportunity has also brought up some interesting conversations with my parents. While they're still a bit nervous about the instability of freelance work, they've been more supportive than I expected. Mom has been helping me plan my packing, and Dad's been researching the places I'll be visiting, eager to discuss them with me. Of course, it hasn't all been smooth sailing. There are still moments of tension, especially when it comes to differing life choices. Sarah sometimes slips and makes comments about me settling down eventually. Our parents occasionally compare our lives in ways that feel uncomfortable, but we're all getting better at recognizing these moments and addressing them openly. I know we still have work to do, but I'm so grateful for how far we've come. Our relationship feels more authentic and supportive than ever before. It's proof that with effort and open communication, even the most strained family dynamics can improve. As I prepare for my upcoming travel opportunity, I feel a mix of excitement and nostalgia. Part of me wishes I had this level of family support years ago when I was first starting out, but I'm also proud of the independent, confident person I became through those struggles. Thank you to everyone who followed my story and offered support along the way. Your encouragement helped me stay strong in setting boundaries while also being open to reconciliation. I'm looking forward to this new chapter in my life and relationship with my family, wherever it may lead.